The biggest mistake most gardeners make is believing that the harder you work, the higher your yield. But the truth is, some of the world's most productive gardens are also the laziest. Today, I'm going to introduce you to 12 amazing perennial plants that can provide you with food year after year with virtually no replanting. No plowing required. No need to buy seeds every season. And once established, many of these plants can live for decades. Some almost forever. Plant once, harvest for decades. If you want to be smartly lazy and still have plenty of fresh vegetables on your table, this video is for you. Let's start with the first plant. 1. Asparagus. Let's start with the undisputed king of perennial crops, asparagus. Plant it once, and a single bed can keep feeding your family for 20 to 25 years. Long enough to watch your kids grow up and still be harvesting the same crowns. Here's the secret most beginner gardeners get wrong. You have to starve your patience for the first 2 years. No harvesting. None. It feels brutal, but every spear you leave alone is sending energy straight down into the underground crown, building a root system so powerful it'll explode with dozens of thick, fat spears every spring after that, like little green rockets launching out of bare soil. You can start asparagus 3 ways: from seed, from nursery transplants, or from crowns, which are the pre-grown root systems you plant directly into the ground. Crowns give you the fastest head start. Asparagus thrives in zones 3 to 8. It actually needs a cold winter dormancy period to reset and come back stronger. If you're in a warmer zone like 9 or 10, look for heat-tolerant varieties specifically bred for mild winters. By year 3 or 4, you won't believe what one small investment produces. This is the plant that keeps the promise every single spring. Before you keep watching, comment your state. If you ignore your USDA zone, you might pick the wrong plants from the start. I'll be pointing out the right zones as we go. Watch for yours. 2. Chayote. A few seasons back, a gardener in a small Facebook group posted a photo that stopped everyone scrolling. It was a single chayote vine, one vine that had completely swallowed a 20-foot fence, climbed over a shed roof, and was reaching toward a neighboring tree. Hanging from every inch of that vine were hundreds of pale green fruits, swaying gently in the breeze. The caption simply read, "I planted one fruit in April. It's now August." That's the chayote effect, and the numbers behind it are almost uncomfortable to say out loud. One single fruit used as your seed can produce over 300 fruits in a single season. Not one plant from one seed. One fruit planted whole directly into the ground. The technique most people get fatally wrong. Never bury the seed fruit completely. Leave the broader end, the bottom, slightly exposed above the soil surface. Cover it entirely, and trapped moisture rots the fruit before it ever sprouts. You lose your whole investment before the season even begins. Get that detail right, though, and what happens next requires almost no intervention from you. The vine explodes upward, reaches outward, and produces with a generosity that feels almost unreasonable. Grab a tape measure after the first week of serious growth. The vine can travel several feet in 7 days alone. Chayote thrives in zones 7 to 11. In cooler zones, start the fruit indoors 6 weeks before last frost. Then transplant outside once night temperatures stay reliably above 50 degrees F. 3. Passion fruit. What if I told you that a single vine could take your ugliest, most forgotten fence and turn it into a fragrant wall of superfoods dripping with fruit, buzzing with pollinators, and coming back wilder every single year? That's not gardening. That's a full backyard transformation. And passion fruit does it almost effortlessly once established. But here's the mistake that destroys most people's harvest before it even begins: inconsistent watering during flowering season. Passion fruit vines are surprisingly unforgiving during this stage. The moment the soil swings from too dry to suddenly soaked, the plant becomes stressed and starts dropping flowers immediately. And without flowers, there's no fruit, only a lush green vine that looks productive but gives you nothing. The solution is simple, but incredibly important. Water deeply, slowly, and on a consistent schedule the entire time the vine is blooming. Stable moisture is the secret that keeps flowers attached and fruit developing properly. Once you lock in that routine, the vine rewards you heavily, producing more fruit every year as it matures. And when harvest finally arrives, don't rush the moment indoors. Pick a ripe passion fruit, step outside into the sunlight, and cut it open fresh from the vine. The golden pulp glistens instantly. Juice runs over your fingers, and the tropical fragrance alone makes the entire plant worth growing. Best grown in zones 9 to 11. In zone 8, train the vine against a dark brick or stone wall so it absorbs heat during the day and slowly releases warmth back onto the plant through cool nights. 4. Katuk. Most plants have a survival instinct. Push them too hard, and they shut down, slow their growth, or simply give up. Katuk didn't get that memo. This remarkable perennial green operates on a completely reversed logic. The more aggressively you harvest it, the more explosively it grows back. Strip the young shoots today, and by next week, it's sent out twice as many branches reaching in every direction. Gardeners who don't know this treat it gently and end up with half the yield of someone who harvests it almost ruthlessly. Beyond that unusual personality, katuk carries some serious nutritional muscle. The protein content in these small leaves punches well above what most vegetables can offer. Enough that some researchers have genuinely compared it to animal protein sources. You're not just growing a green. You're growing a plant-based protein factory that resets itself every single week. Taste it raw, and you'll get something unexpected. A rich, nutty depth, like a green pea crossed with a roasted chestnut. Nothing bland, nothing boring. It also laughs at summer heat that destroys spinach, kale, and lettuce without a second thought. Katuk loves zones 9 to 11. Frost will kill it, so in zone 8, tuck it against a warm south-facing wall or grow it in containers you can pull indoors when cold hits. 5. Sun choke. Forget everything you think you know about starchy crops. There's a perennial tuber growing quietly in backyard gardens across America that produces more protein than a regular potato, comes back every single year without replanting, and costs almost nothing to get started. Gardeners who discover sunchokes tend to have one of two reactions. Either they become completely obsessed, or they deeply regret not planting them in a container first. Here's why. This plant is a beautiful monster. Leave even one small tuber in the ground after harvest, and it will come back. Miss 3 of them, which you absolutely will because they're small and hide well, and next spring you'll have a forest of 6-foot sunflower-like stalks taking over whatever space they please. They don't ask permission. They don't negotiate. So, the golden rule with sunchokes is simple. Grow them in a large container or a dedicated raised bed with barriers. Control the boundaries from day one, and you'll have a virtually unlimited supply of nutty, slightly sweet tubers every single fall. Let them run free, and you'll spend the next 3 years trying to evict them. The harvest moment, though, genuinely theatrical. Pull one dry, withered stalk from the ground, and suddenly an avalanche of tubers tumbles out, far more than you ever expected from something that looked completely dead above soil. Extremely adaptable across zones 3 to 9, one of the most cold-hardy perennial food crops you can grow. 6. Blueberries. There's a shrub sitting in backyards across America that most people wildly underestimate. Not because it's rare or difficult, but because they never stop to do the math. A single mature blueberry bush can produce 5 to 7 kilos of fruit per season. It starts fruiting within 2 to 3 years of planting, and if you treat it right, it will still be producing when your grandchildren inherit the house. We're talking 50 to 60 years of harvests from one plant. No annual vegetable comes close to that kind of return. But here's where most home growers fail completely. They ignore the soil pH. Blueberries don't merely prefer acidic soil, they absolutely demand it. Plant them in neutral or alkaline ground, and the leaves turn yellow. Growth stalls, and fruit production crashes to nearly nothing. The plant stays alive just enough to frustrate you. The fix is straightforward and almost free. Mulch the base heavily every year with coffee grounds or pine bark. Both break down slowly and keep that soil acidity locked in right where blueberries need it. And here's something no supermarket berry will ever give you. Pick a perfectly ripe blueberry straight off your own bush and look closely at that powdery white coating on the skin. That's called the bloom, and it's nature's freshness seal. Once a berry gets handled, packaged, and shipped, that bloom is gone forever. Most varieties thrive in zones 4 to 7. Warmer climates should seek out southern highbush varieties bred specifically for low chill conditions. Still watching? Good, because the next few crops are where zone selection gets really critical and where most people make the most expensive mistakes. Your climate determines everything from here. 7. Strawberries. Buy one in spring. By autumn, you could be looking at 20 plants spreading across your bed, and you didn't do a single thing to make it happen. That's the quiet magic of strawberries, and it's why they deserve a spot in every perennial garden, regardless of your climate, your space, or your experience level. Strawberries reproduce through runners, long, thin stems that creep horizontally across the soil, touch down, and root themselves into brand-new plants. Watch one closely on a warm afternoon, and you can almost see it moving, stretching outward like it's scouting new territory. It's one of the most satisfying things in gardening to witness. But here's the technique that separates a mediocre strawberry patch from an explosive one. Pinch off every flower in the very first season. It feels completely wrong, counterintuitive, almost cruel. But removing those early blooms forces the plants to stop thinking about fruit and start investing everything into roots and runners instead. The payoff comes the following season. Bigger plants, stronger runners, and harvests that genuinely surprise you. 2 varieties worth understanding before you plant. June-bearing types deliver one massive, concentrated flush of large berries, perfect if you're preserving or making jam. Ever-bearing types spread smaller harvests across spring, summer, and fall. Better if you want something fresh to grab every few weeks. Strawberries adapt across zones 3 to 10, depending on variety. Cold climate growers should mulch heavily over winter to protect the crowns from hard freezes. 8. Grapes. No perennial transforms a backyard quite like a grapevine. A well-trained vine climbing across a timber trellis. heavy clusters hanging in the afternoon light, casting shade over a garden bench beneath. It's the kind of scene that makes a yard look like it belongs in the Italian countryside. But grapes reward patience and punish hesitation. The single most important technique most beginners refuse to believe? You must cut away 90% of the vine every single winter. It looks devastating. It feels like destruction. First time you do it, you'll second-guess every cut. Do it anyway. That brutal winter pruning is exactly what redirects the plant's entire energy away from endless leafy growth and straight into producing heavy, sugar-loaded fruit clusters the following summer. Spare the shears, and you'll get a beautiful, sprawling vine that fruits poorly and becomes harder to manage every year. Train your vines about 8 feet apart along horizontal wires set in 2 or 3 tiers. Let the main trunk climb, then guide the arms across the wires. After that, the vine practically runs itself. Grape variety selection is everything here. European varieties love zones 7 to 10. Cold, hardy American hybrids push down into zones 4 to 6. Always match variety to your specific zone before buying. 9. Pomegranate. Most fruit trees are needy. They want consistent water, rich soil, perfect conditions. Pomegranate looks at all of that and laughs. This is a tree that evolved in some of the harshest, driest landscapes on Earth, and it brought every adaptation with it into your backyard. Weeks without irrigation? Fine. Blazing summer heat that wilts everything around it thrives. Rocky, poor, almost inhospitable soil actually prefers it. But here's the mistake that quietly kills pomegranate harvests before they even begin. Overfeeding with nitrogen. It sounds generous. It feels like good gardening. In reality, too much nitrogen fertilizer tells the tree to pour every ounce of energy into lush, dark, beautiful leaves and completely abandon fruit production. You end up with the most gorgeous, useless tree in the neighborhood. Pomegranate needs a degree of hardship to fruit well. Lean soil, strong sun, and restrained watering during fruit development is what concentrates those deep ruby arils into something genuinely extraordinary. Harvest Day has a theatrical quality nothing else in the garden matches. Crack one open, and hundreds of jewel-like seeds cascade out, catching the light like scattered garnets. Worth every month of waiting. Keep the plant pruned to a manageable bush shape, with 3 to 5 main stems, rather than letting it reach tree height. Easier to harvest, easier to manage, better airflow throughout. Pomegranate performs best in zones 7 to 11. Cold-tolerant varieties can push into zone 6 with winter protection. 10. Pineapple guava. Most fruit trees make you choose ornamental beauty or edible production. Feijoa refuses that trade-off entirely and delivers both. Plus, one more trick nobody expects. Walk past a feijoa in full bloom and you'll stop. The flowers are genuinely stunning. Silvery green leaves contrasting against petals of white and crimson. But here's what makes it truly bizarre. Those flower petals are edible. Pull one off and eat it straight from the branch. The flavor hits like a sweet, perfumed candy. Nothing remotely green or vegetal about it. Pure surprise in a single bite. Then come the fruits. Shaped like a stubby banana with a flavor profile that somehow combines pineapple, mint, and banana all at once. Scooped fresh with a spoon directly from the skin, it's one of the most uniquely satisfying eating experiences in any perennial garden. And here's the harvesting secret that makes feijoa completely foolproof. Never pick the fruit directly. When it's truly ripe, the fruit releases and falls to the ground on its own. If it's still hanging on the branch, it simply isn't ready yet. No guessing, no squeezing, no second-guessing ripeness. The tree tells you exactly when to eat. Feijoa handles surprisingly cool conditions for a subtropical fruit, thriving in zones 8 to 11, and tolerating brief frosts that would damage most tropical fruiting plants. 11. Blackcurrant. Every garden has that one problem corner. The narrow strip along the north fence, the shadowy patch beneath a large tree where nothing survives past its first summer. Most gardeners surrender that space to decorative mulch and quietly give up. Blackcurrant has other plans for it. This is one of the very few genuinely productive fruiting shrubs that doesn't just tolerate shade. It actually prefers growing beneath a larger canopy tree. Press it into that forgotten dark corner, and it'll fruit reliably season after season, while everything planted in full sun nearby demands constant attention. The berries are intense in every sense. Deep, almost black-purple clusters hanging like tiny jewels. The flavor hits with a tartness so bold and complex, it stops you mid-bite. Nothing like anything you'll find in a supermarket. That natural acidity is exactly what makes blackcurrant extraordinary. In jams, jellies, fruit wines, and deep-flavored pies, where complexity matters more than simple sweetness. There's also a nutritional story worth telling here. Blackcurrant carries one of the highest vitamin C concentrations of any commonly grown fruit, several times higher than oranges by weight. Shielded from harsh afternoon sun in hot climates, scorching summer heat is its one genuine weakness. Thrives in zones 3 to 6. An exceptional choice for northern gardeners who struggle finding productive perennial fruit plants for cold climates. 12. Red noodle bean. Save the most surprising for last, because this final crop doesn't just feed you, it quietly feeds your entire garden at the same time. Red noodle bean produces pods so extraordinarily long, sometimes stretching past 80 years, that holding a fresh harvest feels genuinely absurd, like pulling purple-red ribbons straight off a living vine. And unlike most red or purple vegetables that fades to dull green the moment heat hits them, these beans hold that dramatic color straight through cooking. Your stir-fry, your soup, your plate, still vivid, still stunning. But the real story happening underground is even more impressive than what you see above it. Like all legumes, red noodle bean forms a quiet partnership with soil bacteria, pulling nitrogen directly from the air and fixing it into the ground around its roots. Every neighboring plant in your garden gets quietly fertilized without a single bag of synthetic fertilizer opened. It needs a sturdy trellis. This vine climbs aggressively and rewards the support with relentless production through the hottest months of summer, when most other beans have long since surrendered to the heat. A true warm season performer thriving in zones 7 to 11. In cooler zones, start indoors 4 weeks before last frost and transplant once soil temperatures consistently hit 60 degrees Fahrenheit. There you have it, 12 perennial crops that pay you back season after season. Year after year, without starting from scratch every single spring. From asparagus crowns that outlive generations, to blackcurrant thriving in forgotten shady corners, to red noodle beans quietly fertilizing your entire garden while feeding your family. Every single plant on this list is an investment that compounds over time. The best moment to plant any of these was years ago. The second best moment is this weekend. Before you go, drop your state in the comments below. Growing perennials without knowing your USDA zone is like building without a blueprint. Know your zone, choose the right plants, and your garden will reward you for decades. Now, get growing.